And hello everybody, those who are new to my channel, please note that for the next 15 minutes we have a pre-tour chat where we say hello to each other, talk about ridiculous things, and therefore if you're only here to watch the tour, then please do scroll forward for the next 15 minutes if you're not watching live. If you are watching live, then do welcome and please say hello to me in the chat. Hello Tricia, how are you? Hello Margaret. How is everybody? I've given up on the weather telling me anything. David, Wendy and Daisy and Pizzazz, because there's a bit of sun coming in today. I'm using a new tool. I've been meaning to do this for about a year, but I don't like to be too speedy about these things. I was very aware that my gimbal has a shelf life. Hello, Nikki. And I therefore wanted to get myself a little holder for my phone. So I have gone and purchased one of those because I think once my gimbal dies, it may be the end of virtual touring because it will be jolly expensive to replace it. So hopefully this will give a little bit more life to my gimbali. Hello Trista, how are you? How is everybody on this glorious sunny day? I say glorious sunny day because it's actually been pouring it down for most of the weekend. But at the moment it's a beautiful sky. So oh hello Rosie, hello Anne. Oh, what's on the old picturoo? I'm afraid I need some magnifying glasses. It's either a goat. I wouldn't this be awful if it's a picture of you. So Emma Braisby, good Lord, good heavens and goodness gracious me, I have not seen you in 100 years. Hello Sarah. Oh, that's interesting. You're saying hello to Mike, and I don't think I've seen Mike, so I'm not sure how he could have snuck in. Have I missed Mike? How does one miss Mike? Hello, Fran. Hello, Leslie. Hello, Cheryl. Trying to outdo Rosie with the O's there. So it might be getting jolly warm in this office anyway, so if I start sweating, do apologise. Hello, Rosemary. Bright sunshine and torrential rain. Yes, it was almost like half of the garden could have been pouring with rain and the other half gorgeous. Susan, I did... No, now am I talking to the wrong Susan? So many different Susans. Now I'm confused. Susan... Oh, hello, Carolyn. Susan, did you message me earlier on your... Hello, Tina. It's a deer. Oh, well, a goat, a deer, a female deer, Ray, a drop of falling sun. Do apologise. A deer and a goat aren't that bad considering it's quite small. And they have got 4 legs. And goats also have horns. You did, Susan, it was you, right? So yes, no, hello Adrian, how are you? Yes, it is the same PayPal. So I'm not sure that I have a different PayPal, so your message confused me, but thank you. This is a Susan that likes chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? Hello, Mummy Sanderson. Nice to see we've got a few of you here. I've spent far too long researching this tour. I ended up going down quite a few rabbit holes, but ended up without any rabbits, which is probably a good thing because Peach would probably want to eat them. She is a fan. She did bring in a mouse the other day, and do you know what? Normally I wouldn't. I would try and fight it off her, and I was just so tired. I was just like, well, you've killed it now, so just get on with it. And I had that severed head to deal with in the morning. Oh my life, oh my life. Still got lots of kittens at the cattery. I am totally not tempted because my current cohort are so naughty. I must remember to share with you the photo I have of Peach clinging to the curtains. Your husband, Trista's husband, is allergic to chocolate. Well, I say that's very, very disappointing. I wonder what's in chocolate. Is it the cocoa? 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 Coke? What am I talking about? Cocoa? Cocoa. Anyway, yes, or is there something else? And is it dark chocolate he's allergic to and milk chocolate? I suppose if you're allergic to chocolate, you might not try every bar on the rack to see whether or not they all made you feel ill. Hello, Laurie. Although I might, just because chocolate, you know, I am actually being really good at the moment. I'm on a low-fat diet, trying to lose some of my additional padding. But I do allow myself one of these bars, which is basically about 99 calories, 3 grams, probably still far too much really, but you know, you have to have some joy, don't you? One cannot live on baked potato alone. So had such fun doing this tour, doing the walk, that I had to do it twice. Very annoying. Emma's going to have an ice cream, all this talk of nice food. Well, I do treat myself. I mean, I talk about this low-fat diet and I'm telling you about all the naughty things. I do allow myself a mint choc chip cone, which is rather lovely. He feels ill breathing the chocolate fumes in the chocolate aisle at work. Ah, but is that psychosomatic? Because I'm allergic to, well, antibiotics. But I'm sure if I knew the antibiotic was near me. Or is it inhaling? See, you don't sniff chocolate. Well, you can do. It smells rather lovely. Nothing quite like melted chocolate. Well, there is other delightful things, but melted chocolate, bit of dairy milk. Ooh, melted, lovely. Not eating that because I'm obviously on my low-fat diet, and unfortunately dairy milk does not fall into that. Is this tour from Devon? Yes, it is from Devon. It's from Dawlish in Devon. Dawlish Warren to Dawlish. It's very exciting. Yes, I had to do it twice because unfortunately the first time I went to do part of it, the tide was in and therefore I could not take the video that I wanted. So that was ha 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 ha. And the second time I dragged my knee slip down. And she had much fun. Dairy milk dipped into tea. Oh, I don't drink tea. But isn't that a waste of chocolate? Mike, you can have the money that you haven't paid yet back. Yes, you may. Red Rock, as in Uluru. Well, then it wouldn't be the coast, would it? Because if it was Uluru, it is not near the coast. If you, however, Michael, would like to pay for my airfares and my hotel accommodation, or let's just say the airfares, I will indeed go to Australia and do the tour for you. Is that a deal? I have actually been to Australia before because I have relatives in Australia. I was about 21, something like that, very young. And but we went to Sydney and Melbourne and Colac, which is where my relatives habitate. There was no red rocks. There were the Blue Mountains. Maybe everything's got a colour. A red rock, a blue mountain, a yellow submarine. Which reminds me, Leslie. It's Leslie's fault. Leslie suggested that I do a tour at Chatham Dockyards. And bear with me, there's a submarine, that's hence the brain tickety-boo. And I have been liaising with them for some time, and I will be going down to check it out and the signal and etc, etc. So yes, so anybody on here, would they like to see some sort of ship business, submarine business, or very exciting business down at Chatham, which is closest to Rochester, where you've been with me before? if you're into knitting, there's a knitting hotel there where they teach knotting. Now, is that because you got carried away and actually it's a knitting hotel where they teach knitting, or does the knitting hotel teach knotting? Because interestingly enough, when I was in Devon, we went to a carvery and they actually did have lots of knots shown, which was fabulous. I took a photo of said knots to try and learn myself teach myself even all about knots. I, however, forgot and have only just recalled. Chatham, home of the Medway scene. Yes, indeed, I worked in Chatham. Rosemary did me knitting, not knotting. I worked in Chatham for all of 3 weeks. Hello, Cindy. Cool, cloudy Detroit, Michigan, USA. Just drop it in there. Barming, Maidstone, Kent, UK. Yes, I worked there for 3 weeks. I counted money. I'd been made redundant from my job. This was back in 2001, I think. 2002? 2002, I correct myself. And it was actually quite enjoyable. The only thing was I was paid £5 an hour and it cost £5 to park. So for the first hour, all I was doing was paying for my parking, which actually, even when you think about it, it would have cost more than that because you have to take away income tax and national insurance. Hello, Ronnie. So there you are, 3 weeks. And I do believe when I left, they bought me a bar of dairy milk. And there we go, full circle. See? Isn't it amazing? Anybody got anything interesting to tell me? Anything else interesting going on in the world apart from the weather, which seems to have taken over my entire life? And petrol money. Yes, Emma, I know. Wear and tear on the car. I wasn't a very profitable 3 weeks. But there are some lovely people. Sarah's only telling Laurie, but I'm going to tell you all. She's hoping for a tooth to come out tomorrow. Meanwhile, her dentist gave her antibiotics, which she's been on for 3 days. Ooh, I say. Is that a little... Is that a tie a little thing round the old tooth and then open the door? I wouldn't have paid much income tax if I only got £5 an hour. But of course, this is a while ago, Michael. So although it might sound awful now, it probably wasn't as awful then. And when you work 40 hours a week, £200... No, what am I saying? 40 hours a week, £5 an hour. That doesn't make any sense. I guess it was £200 a month. £200 a week, sorry. Got distracted by teeth. No cats in Portugal anywhere. Well, that's interesting and possibly a good thing. Hello, Tisharoo. No cats in Portugal, if you look on the bright side, means that they don't have any strays. No cats in Portugal could mean that they have got rid of the strays. Let's look at the glass half full and think that they don't have any strays in that area anymore. And they're looking after them splendidly. So we've got about 90 seconds left until we start the tour. If I've missed saying hello to anybody, sorry. We need to say hello to Linda, who's not able to join us because she's had some sad news and had to go to a wake. So she's going to be watching this tour when she comes home for a bit of light entertainment. Oh, why, thank you. It's a top I bought when I went to, well, it says on there, it says Cambodia, so I must have got it from Cambodia, which would have been in the year, I don't actually know, 2019 potentially. Yes, everybody's sending you hugs, Linda, and a really bad heart because I'm not really good at these. There you are. And Emma doesn't want to wake when she dies. She wants to go to sleep. Yes, indeed so. Indeed so. It's actually probably far more bright than it looks on the camera. Now, because, as I said, I've got this new thing that I'm propping my phone up, not using the gimbal, there is a chance I end up knocking the phone to the floor, but just enjoy it. If it happens, it'll be fine. 6:30, says Margaret, in which means we are going to kick off. And we have got a walk along the coast. We are going to start at Dawlish Warren, which is in Devon, South Devon. And we're going to walk along to Dawlish, and on the way we're going to talk about all manner of things, including a train, a seawall, a Coast Guard's house, Red Rock, lots of interesting things. Now, I know some of you have already been to Devon. You probably already know where I'm talking about, but if you could perhaps save any stories for later, so that I don't then see it all being discussed in the chat and you've taken my material for later on in the tour. If you have got any questions and I don't answer, it is for two reasons, possibly more, but let's say two. One is that I haven't seen your question. The second one is that I'm going to answer it later on in the tour. So if there aren't any questions, if there are unanswered questions at the end of the tour, then please do ask and I will do my best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll make something up or pretend I can't read the question. So the first video that we're going to be looking at today is we're going to have two walks up to the Red Rock. One was taken when the tide was in and one was taken when the tide was out. I'm going to leave it to you to decide which was which. And we're going to have now, this is where I will need to adjust the volume slightly, probably because it's going to be too noisy for you with the wind. So this will be a good test of the old video. Now, excuse the swing. I obviously got a little bit overexcited. And let's see how you find the volume. It's a little bit windy, so I might turn that down a little bit more. And as you can see, it was a glorious day. The whole week in Devon was glorious. We've started off, so with our backs, if we turned around, which we can't because, but we'll have a look that way in a minute, we're looking towards Dawlish Warren. Now, interestingly enough, the name likely refers to the area's historic use for rabbit farming, which might explain why I went down so many rabbit holes when I was researching the tour. So, didn't see any bunnies on the tour, but Dawlish Warren is the name for the sand spit, the beach, the golf course and the seaside resort. And I can turn that down a bit more if the wind is still a bit windy. I mean, wind being windy would be a thing, wouldn't it? Now, once the railway arrived in the mid-19th century, it helped the area become a holiday destination. Hundreds of beach huts were built or in the 1970s, but they were set up of the setup of the local nature reserve restricted numbers, and only one survived into the 21st century. Now, for those of you who have been, you will know there are plenty of caravan sites, and I stayed on one of those. Great location to get places. You do need a car, although to be fair, saying that, I could have actually walked down to the train station and got a train. And talk of trains, just to demonstrate my point. Now, the Warren is internationally important for wildlife. It's a site of special scientific interest and a special area of conservation for its dune grassland, its humid dune slacks, which sound like an outfit, and the tiny rare petalwort that grow there. Now, the Warren was designated as a local nature reserve. Look at that view though, isn't that wonderful? I loved it. It was designated as a local nature reserve in 1978 and then as a national nature reserve in 2000. Well, I've actually written 200, so that's interesting. Would have helped if I'd have read the digit after that, wouldn't it? Let's now look at now I'm got a little bit obsessed with trains, so what I'm going to do is share with you a video. So if you can see, while you're looking at this, look over to the right, you will see towards the more towards Dawlish Warren. I am very bravely, may I say, actually stood on the footbridge over the railway with the train coming towards me. And the only reason I continued to take this video and not have a massive panic is because I thought it would look lovely. And then I quickly raced around to show you it disappearing, and I did get a little bit train obsessed during this walk. Very short video. It's disappeared. The train, not the video. What I've noticed is Prism appear to have done something slightly strange, and it's now very difficult to change your videos about. Now this is another short walk up to the Red Rock. And this, as you can see, is completely different. Do I struggle with bridges? I struggle with heights. And obviously very aware of the speed of the train coming towards me. So the mud flats on the Warren provide refuge for thousands of overwintering and migratory waterfowl, and it is open to the public. I didn't get a chance to go to the Warren itself, the nature reserve. There just wasn't enough time. So this isn't a holiday video. This is a video that I took while I was on holiday, purely to live stream for you guys. And you can see that it took quite a while for me to be able to understand how my brother had taken a photo while he was actually down in that area directly. Because if you look, you can actually see the sea cuts off any kind of entrance to the Red Rock from this side. However, you'll see why when we get to the other side. And this is, I was trying out some zooming for you guys. And you can see what they have done is they've actually blocked up some of those gaps in the rock, assumed to stop further erosion. The sea is a really big topic. The force of the sea down here is, as we will see, quite fascinating, and also in equal measures terrifying. And I really enjoyed having gone down first. The rocks, interestingly enough, are ones that you could, if you were much younger, fitter, potentially clamber on, but I think you'd do yourself a bit of a mischief, so I wouldn't recommend it. And these, of course, are all part of the sea defences. And what's fascinating is that obviously just down the path is Dawlish with its population of black swans and wildfowl. And obviously they have masses coming down to the reserve. So quite an area for birdies. There you are. So that's your entry point now. So you've gone to this end while and this is actually while we're down on the beach. So you can really have a look inside. Now it's called Langstone Rock, but it's also called Red Rock, and it's Permian red sandstone cliffs. you don't actually get the real kind of redness come through on the camera, so it's looking a bit more orangey here. At certain points you will, so here if you look you can get better, you know, the redder colour. Now this is a reminder of when Britain was closer to the equator and much of the country was a desert. Cliffs formed from wind-blown sand. So this was in a desert in the Permian period, and that's quite recent, only 250 million years ago. And of course, this is why I realised I couldn't walk across and recreate that photo that my brother took, is because it's blocked up. However, having read, there is a thought that what's happening is that the preparations that they've done to stop, obviously the sea damage is actually means that the materials now are building up on one side as opposed to the other. And you do see these beautiful red rocks when you're walking along the coast, jutting out, and they do look fabulous in the landscape. And within the these here you can see there's thin beds of pebbles which have been laid down by repeated flash flooding in wetter periods. So it's really interesting to see so close up how this has been created. And there is a sign which quite clearly says danger of falling rocks. Now what you can do, if you were so inclined, which of course I was not, is you can actually walk to the top of the red rock and look down and have a look here at all this green material. Doesn't that make you want to eat your dinner off that? Oh, it's a ghost, Tina. Yes, I know there are guides far better able to explain the geology than me. And of course, if you wanted to, you couldn't easily climb up onto that and walk across. But I did enjoy the seabirds. Actually, I think it was, I don't think it was very pongy, actually. I don't think I touched it, I'll be honest with you. Did look a little bit less than gorgeous. So now we're going to talk about sea bathing. Now, Tish, when you say you can picture hanging here, I'm assuming that's leisure hanging and not execution hanging, but who knows with you lot. So by the 18th century, the upper classes had become preoccupied with health. There was a focus on nature and outdoor activities in the fresh air, and in 1752 Dr. Richard Russell published a dissertation on the use of seawater for the diseases of the glands. So the seawater washes away all the evils of mankind. Now this caught on and got lots of publicity, therefore it became very popular. I think it's a bit of a reach. I'm not sure it actually washes away all the evils of mankind. I think it would take more than the sea to do that. Now, sunbathing naked was a bit of a thing, but in the 18th century, women started to wear long, loose-fitting gowns, often made of wool. I'll be honest, I can't think of anything more uncomfortable than a wet, long, loose-fitting gowns plastered to me. And then, of course, they invented the bathing machines. Now, there's a sketch from 1735 which shows bathers using one at Scarborough. So the machines came with dippers, not chicken dippers, people. Those are people that will help that person bathe safely. They had to be strong because sometimes they had to push the machines into the sea. Some were pulled by a horse and some used cables propelled by a steam engine. Some dippers pushed the bathers into the water, so dunking was part of the experience, something I would rather not have to deal with. In 1860, laws forbidding public nudity while swimming were introduced, which was a shame, for apparently there was some trips to the seaside just to admire the young men bathing in the nudie. in the US in the 1936, bear chests, or male bear chests, became legal. Now, I will say in here there were lots of flies. This wasn't the most exciting journey for me. Lots of flies, quite dark, scared of, you know, something coming out and jumping at me. So after, obviously, you've got your bathing costumes, then you go to, so that's with your segregated bathing, then you've got your family and mixed bathing. But skinny dipping apparently isn't illegal. It depends where you do it, how you do it. I did enjoy my little exploration, except for the flies and the thought that, you know, there might be a mass murderer about to come out and grab me. Bats, no, I wasn't worried about bats. If I was in an old building, potentially, but I don't think, who knows? Now you're probably all going to tell me there's lots of colonies of bats in there, but I don't think so. And you can look at the floor. You've got obviously got the lovely sand and you've got all the seaweed coming in. I think I was more concerned about banging my head, if I'm 100% honest with you. I think that was more likely than anything I was doing. Scraping my head on those glorious sharp pebbles would have been a rather nice injury. But we're actually in a little cave, so I think that's fun. And you can see some of the flies there, I think. But no bogeymen, so I was all right. I managed to escape. Out into the bright lights, and actually by then there'd been a group of girls come out, so you've got some teenagers. Another group of teenagers had come along and gone into the spot that I first went, where it's been blocked off. But I just thought it's a lovely area, just quite impressive. I was quite fascinated with the arch. Bit of a shame that I couldn't actually have a wander through. We're going to be talking about an interesting invention in a minute, which is an atmospheric railway. So I'm going to wait till we leave here, and if you, as we walk past those people lazing in the sun, very nice, you will see the signs on the wall, if indeed I turn to that point, otherwise we won't, which says do beware of falling rocks. There's quite a few signs here about the danger of obviously walking along the sea wall in stormy weather, and I'll talk about why. And if I remember, I will try and share in my Facebook group, Leonie on Tour, share a couple of YouTube videos that were taken during a storm in Dawlish. I do apologise to those people who are walking up after having bathed in the sea. Thankfully, they're not nudies. Yes, I swam through a sea cave in Zante. Yes, getting a bit of colour. And you can just hear there a little bit of a wave. And then looking at the waves, and whee! And you can see all along the coast, which is where we're going to be walking very shortly. Right, so this was last month. Over 2 dates, the 17th and 18th of June, I believe. I did want to dunk my feet in, but I didn't because I hadn't brought anything to dry them off. Wasn't really prepared. I think it's half sand, half pebbles, so depending where you are. But I just think that's a fabulous view. And the sea, as you will see, has stopped, which means we're now going on to our next video. And this is the final video, but it's a long one, you'll be pleased to know. And we're just going to have a little walk back to where we started. And we've got the railway on our right. And it's got a fabulous view. Now, this, of course, wasn't here originally, but plans were first made for a railway line which would go inland between Dawlish and Teignmouth. However, the plans were changed, and this led to the route we see today, which is one of the most scenic on the railway. And on the 4th of July, 1844, the South Devon Railway Act was passed. It covered construction of a new railway from Exeter to Plymouth, and Isambard Kingdom Brunel was appointed as chief engineer. Now, the route was hilly with sharp curves, and Brunel had concerns that the steam trains would not be able to cope. And he was interested in what's called an atmospheric propulsion system. Now, bear with me, this gets a little bit technical. A central cast iron pipe was laid on the railway track with an airtight leather flap on top, and the carriages were attached by a valve. Pumping stations were powered by steam engines at the side of the track, which forced the air out of the tube, which created a vacuum on one side and an atmosphere to the other, which propelled them along. So this is why it's called the atmospheric railway. Now, he'd seen a demonstration in Ireland in September 1844, and he'd persuaded the South Devon Railway's Board of Directors. Now, he was doubted, but he'd been doubted before for his Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol, for example, and of course that had been a success. So just because other people doubted him didn't stop him, pardon the pun, in his tracks. Now, the Irish, Dalkey and Kingston Railway broke down 7 times in the first 11 months, which closed the entire line for a day on each occasion. And at this stage, you might think to yourself, well, there's a bit of a warning. But he continued. No line is without its problems, he thought. However, another short line atmospheric railway began operating in January 1846, and this was called the Croydon Railway. And he said he would learn from this, and he did. He had originally commissioned 13-inch pipes, and he'd learnt that Croydon was using 15-inch, so he changed the order, and there we have got a glorious train speeding through. And that meant that the pipe already made, and that was nearly 3 miles worth, had to be scrapped. And it turns out that they were likely dumped in a field in Bristol, which is where the chap who was making them came from. This obviously ate into the savings that he said would be made by using this system over the conventional one. Unfortunately, another issue with the system is that in addition to the sea and the salt air, the temperatures caused the leather flaps to crack, and of course meant they're not airtight. Now, to prevent this, they lined them with animal fat, but of course this attracted ratties who ate the animal fat and of course part of the leather seal. Now, passengers sometimes unfortunately had to push the train cars over the track and then ride in them, so breakdowns were not unusual. the pumping stations. So there was one every 3 miles. They were not connected by telegraph. So they had to operate constantly as they didn't know if the train had been held up. So that was inefficient. The train itself could not control its power. It only had brakes, which led to the train sometimes stopping short or after the station. Now, the speed could depend on the number of passengers, but trains were recorded as going up to 60 miles per hour. And I'll be honest, considering the fact that they weren't really in control so much of the train, that's slightly unnerving. Now, the original principle was that the train would be more effective. There would be a cost saving as there was no engine, there was no coal or water, which made it lighter to power, and it wouldn't produce smoke, and it would be quieter. So these are all great benefits. However, of course, the steam houses were creating, obviously, pollution, so it didn't end pollution, it just meant it was in a different place. Now, in May 1846, service on the South Devon Railway began, but it used steam trains until the atmospheric vacuum tube was completed. And over a year passed for the tests, and then the regular service began on the 13th of September 1847. And as with the other railways, within weeks the leather seals began to deteriorate as they had for others. Labourers were set to work lubricating the seals, but the cost was too expensive. There was also issues with the valves. The project was in deficit, while it had earned a profit using steam. The first frost of 1847 to 48, the winter, had seen the railway shut down as the leather had been impregnated with water and it froze. So the concern that steam locomotives weren't able to do the job had proved groundless. So the last journey was made using this system on the 9th of September 1848, just 1 year later. So the cost was about 10 pence per kilometre versus 4 pence per kilometre for steam. The overall loss was around £500,000. Now, Brunel did not take his £6,000 fee, and he personally lost £20,000 in the venture. They made up about £81,000 from selling the redundant materials for scrap. They'd built 8 pumping houses and only 3 remain. Now, the Railway Times wrote, "We do not take Isambard Kingdom Brunel for either a rogue or a fool, but an enthusiast, blinded by the light of his own genius, an engineering knight errant, always on the lookout for magic caves to be penetrated and enchanted rivers to be crossed, never so happy as when engaged, regardless of cost, in conquering some, to ordinary mortals impossibility." And of course, Isambard Brunel had achieved great things. He was born in Portsmouth. Oh, we've got a train coming, guys. And I just love the way it curls round and out of sight. And I think the other thing is you're not usually quite so close to a train passing. Literally, you could walk across and you're on the railway line. And I'm back on the sea wall. So, Isambard Kingdom Brunel was born in Portsmouth on the 9th of April 1806. Sadly, he died in London on the 15th of September 1859. So he was only 53 years old, died from a stroke. He'd purchased an estate in Torquay, and he'd commissioned Brunel Manor and gardens to be built, and they were going to be his country home. However, sadly, he died before it was completed. Interesting, in 1843, while he was performing a conjuring trick for his children, he accidentally inhaled a half-sovereign coin, and it became dislodged, or rather lodged, in his windpipe. Brunel designed and built a movable platform with hinges to which he was strapped. His head was lowered to an angle of 80 degrees to horizontal, and his back was repeatedly struck. It did not work. So Benjamin Brodie, a surgeon, tried to make an opening into his trachea and extract it with forceps. It did not work. 6 weeks later, Brunel strapped to the platform again, and Brodie kept open the incision whilst he was struck on his back. He tried to cough, and the coin eventually shifted. It hit his upper jaw and then came out of his mouth. This story became legendary, unsurprisingly. In 2002, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, did a TV poll to find out who were considered the 100 greatest Britons. In the end, at the top was Winston Churchill, and second was Isambard Kingdom Brunel. So actually, when you think about it, really interesting that the greatest inventors can make really costly mistakes in terms of ideas, and also that you can inhale a coin. But of course, he created his own invention to escape. Now, we're walking on the sea wall, and interestingly enough, I was all right walking up, but it is a bit of a drop, as you can see. And unfortunately, in May 2023, a 14-year-old Ukrainian refugee, Albina Yevko, fell to her death from the seawall. Her mother is petitioning to have railings or some sort of protection put up. But of course, you can imagine the sea air and the expense. And I hope you're enjoying the doggy jumping around in the sea. And again, in July 2024, a 70-year-old woman died tragically after falling from the wall on her mobility scooter. I learnt about this when I was home, and I'm glad, because I'm fairly sure I would not be walking so close to the edge had I known this beforehand. And again, you can see the gorgeous colour of those rocks to the side, or cliffs, however you like to call them. And the green looks fabulous as a view, doesn't it? Well, you can imagine getting distracted, or this also is another reason why in the storm, all the storms, all the ice, all the rain, when it's slippy, and as you can see now, we are running out of beach. We're now coming up to the sea, and we are walking towards the Coast Guard's boathouse. But I think for a minute we'll just sit and enjoy the walk. I didn't go on this journey. I did say to my niece, shall we do that? It's funny you say it's not a place to be walking along looking at your phone, Emma, when that was entirely what I was doing while I was filming. So it was my sister's lazy day, so I got up, I walked down to Dawlish Warren, and then I walked along into Dawlish on this beautiful path. And you can see, obviously, the steps going down. But not something that I necessarily would have been wanting to go into, as it's rather wet now. But if you look at the proximity to the sea and the railway line. So the Coast Guard's boathouse was actually demolished in 2021 to make way for the new sea wall. A Coast Guard station was first established in Dawlish in 1809, mainly to prevent smuggling, but it was also to help ships in distress and recover wrecks. But it was knocked down to make way for the railway in the 1840s. Now, in 1847, the boathouse, the watch house, the adjacent Coast Guard's cottages, and a bridge over the railway were built. The footbridge was probably replaced in 1875 when the railway station was rebuilt after a fire. Again, more warning signs coming up here. CCTV in operation. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Now that boathouse stored the Coast Guard's lifeboat and goods salvaged from shipwrecks, which would have been quite fascinating, really, what came out from a shipwreck. The Coast Guard station was downgraded in 1901, which coincided with nationwide curtailing of Coast Guard activities, and the cottages were rented out. There was a brief revival for the watch house in World War I, which was 1914 to 1918, as with many Coast Guard buildings, in the role of the UK's defence. The boathouse was sold to Dawlish Council in 1927. It was in poor condition when it came into Network Rail's ownership in 2019. The other properties were sold in the 1930s. Some of the materials from the old boathouse have been used with the stone from the old sea wall to provide new seating. So I think that's a lovely way to actually incorporate the old and the new. I certainly would not be walking along here whilst in a storm. I think you sometimes see when there are all these storms, people very much, taking their life into their own hands. Too many plurals. Look how green that is. Isn't it wonderful? And imagine actually being in one of these houses. The view would be absolutely splendid, but the trains are quite frequent, so you have to be a train lover. Yes, Dawn, this is entirely coming into Dawlish town itself. And I imagine the maintenance requirements needed for a place, these houses with all the sea air. And you can see some of the defences there against... Oh, and there's a train. How exciting. Every time I saw a train, I got very excited. And we've got another one coming this way. Great Western Railway. As I was told on a previous tour, it's nicknamed Late Western Railway. And you can see when we're looking back how far we've walked. But I would like to point out I was the one that made all the effort. just a fantastically beautiful view. And look at that, diamonds. And I love the different colours. Oh, train buffs, good, very welcome here. Again, the view must be spectacular. But of course, with the railway, it did cut the access to the sea. You can't just walk out across. You have to cross either where I crossed back near Dawlish Warren, or again down by Dawlish. It is a lovely calm day. I imagine they're a mix of both. I imagine these are some residential homes, possibly some care homes, bed and breakfasts, hotels, you name it. I didn't go in and ask. And we are on a beautiful day. Unfortunately, on the 4th and 5th of February 2014, a terrible storm battered the South Devon coastline, including the railway track by the sea. The line connects most of the county and all of Cornwall to the rest of the network. The damage left communities cut off from the rest of the railway. The line was so damaged that it was left dangling in mid-air. The seawall was breached and a section washed away, as did 80 metres of track platforms at Dawlish railway station and sections of the coastal path. Another storm on the 14th of February, happy Valentine's, caused a breach of the temporary sea defences, which were a line of skipping containers. On the 4th of March, on the coast near Teignmouth, there was a controlled landslip which resulted in 20,000 tonnes of material being washed down the cliff over the railway and into the sea. 300 network railway staff, who were nicknamed the Orange Army because of their outfits, worked around the clock to rebuild the track. They had to work in strong winds, high seas and freezing rain. The line reopened on the 4th of April, just in time for Easter holidays, which helped protect the vital tourism industry in Devon and Cornwall. In total, those repairs cost £35 million. I can see why this would be anybody's favourite walk. I, for one, would very much enjoy doing that on a regular basis in good weather. Now, there was 2 phases after the initial repairs. They started from the Colonnade underpass to Boat Cove. They started on work to replace the seawall at Marine Parade in May 2019. Another train! That work was completed in July 2020 and officially opened in September 2020, and that was 360 metres length of sea wall. Now, phase 2 started in November 2020 when work began on building a new 415-metre seawall. That replaced the structure built in 1875. The design was considered the recent climate change predictions, likely sea levels and behaviour of waves. Extensive modelling and testing was carried out by marine experts. This new promenade was open to the public on the 25th of May 2023. It's wider than the old one and plenty of seating. Now that's between the Coast Guard breakwater and the Colonnade breakwater, and we are coming up. Can you see in front of you the outline of what was the Coast Guard's house? And you can see the curve there in the seawall. So this is the new seawall. Now, before the new wall, the track, platform and buildings were often inundated with seawater, with high winds and heavy rain. And that led to short-term closures and many repairs. There was serious flooding on many occasions, including twice in 2018. Now, in 2024, a waiting room was brought back into use. So you can imagine sitting waiting for a train whilst it's seawater's being sprayed all over you. Now, this new, stronger, taller wall is designed to get the large waves to go back into the sea, and it did this. It was demonstrated in November 2023 when there was Storm Ciarán, and when there were 5-metre waves at high tide and more than 80-mile-an-hour winds. Network Rail has put in place a £165 million package of resilience measures funded by the Department for Transport, following that 2014 storm, called the Southwest Resilience Programme. So you can see it's been very expensive. They also built a new footbridge with lifts at the station to make it fully accessible, and this was completed in late 2023. They've installed 19,700 square metres of netting secured by more than 6,000 soil nails to improve cliff resilience, and a 109-metre rock-fill shelter at the end of Parsons Tunnel, and that's to protect the railway from the cliffs above. Now, within the station, there's a wall with bricked-up windows which can be seen in the car park, and that remains of the engine house which used to power the atmospheric train that obviously are no more. And you can see how this design is hopefully going to protect the railway, but unfortunately, with climate change, no matter the modelling, I think it will probably progress far quicker than we expect. Memories from the 70s, Nick. You go round, so there's a couple of tunnels straight ahead, and then I think it goes up to Teignmouth, and then it goes inland. And it will be interesting to see whether or not the railway continues in this spot forevermore. I certainly won't be around to see it. So during COVID, cruise liners, including the Queen Mary, were anchored with sight of this coastline. Well, that's quite nice. I mean, if you're going to have a view, this isn't a bad view, is it? It's interesting when people say lifespans, because I don't know that we can really predict beyond a certain time period what the climate's going to do. And you can hear the station announcement. Well, you could. I talked over it. Well done, me. And they kept the old bridge, footbridge. And of course here you have railing, so you can't just tumble off. And there's a train coming into the station. A seagull coming into land. And if you look at the video I'll share in my Facebook group, you'll see actually where the sea used to come. So obviously this is all part of the old seawall, bit of seating. Yeah, they're lovely doggies on walks like this. I think it would be quite fun. I did think just getting the train just to enjoy the view. And to your right, down there, you'll see the colonnade, which is where we did on my first tour in Dawlish. Oh, and a bit of drilling for a bit of fun. Yes, so you can go on the footbridge over the tracks. You can listen to the drilling if you like. Or you can be underneath, go through that subway underneath, which is where we're about to go. Challenges of being beside the seaside. And this is looking over into the town of Dawlish. There's the sign for the train station. There's the orange, one of the Orange Army. There's somebody with bad digestion or a drill. It is a really wonderful area. I think you can see why people continue to visit. And actually, perhaps next time should stay closer to Dawlish, and then you've got the train station, and you can little birdie flying high. I think I've got excited that now. I can tell by the speed of my walking. Oh, can you see there's another train? I told you, became a train obsessed. I stayed in Dawlish Caravan Park. I think I'm on my tippy toes at the moment. So the town was Dawlish, but it's not right in Dawlish. It's about 2 miles from the centre of the town. Here, the seagulls. Yes, it's interesting now, unfortunately, with the overseas tourism. I think by now I'm losing the power of my muscles and thinking, golly gosh, I do hope that you're not going to be there that long, Mr. Train, because I shall fall over. Nice that he's got his flashing lights. But I'd committed now. I mean, I couldn't just pull away, could I? It's a lovely little station as well, and I think it took you there on my first Dawlish tour. So if you haven't seen it, do revisit the trip I went to Dawlish. We'll be doing another trip. I did take a video around Dawlish. Got some more some black swans, more footage of black swans to show you. If you are liking the video, as I say, please do like it. Helps with the Facebook algorithm. And I'd be very grateful if you enjoy the tour, if you could send a tip. It's very much appreciated. It takes a lot of time to put these virtual tours together. And although I don't expect that we're in the state that obviously my time can never be paid for, it does help. And there's a train. It's finally moving. Breathe a sigh of relief. Quite a long one, this one. Lots of people on that train. Well, you would think. And Powderham Castle. No, I saw the leaflet, but I'm not my cup of tea necessarily. Not when there's so much natural. Well, I say natural. So many of the beautiful towns. And then if you watch, you can see the train, and this is where I try to do some clever zoomage. So you can actually see the train going through the tunnels. And if you look to the left, hopefully you'll see past a rocky outcrop, you're going to see a little hole in a red square. And that train will shortly be coming out of the green foliage. And it will be going. There it is. Can you see it now? The train straight ahead. And it's just going to go through that delightful tunnel. Which I think must be quite exciting to go through the tunnel. And then it disappears from sight. And we go back on our way because we're going to end the tour whilst looking at couple of the black swans just over there. Whoops. Apart from the drilling, it's very peaceful. During storm conditions, this area is unsafe. Safe escape route back along promenade and over footbridge. Beware of waves overtopping. No, let's all go to the seaside tomorrow. And they've imitated those marks on the station building. There you can see on the seawall. More warnings. I think I remembered I wanted to do something and I had to go all the way up the stairs. Which, considering I've just walked all the way and walked down and up the stairs. There you are. Can you see? I'm so glad it's referencing my point that you can see the cutouts. And this is where, so if you remember, we saw the water where the wildfowl were, and that's the bottom of it. Yes, it's a fairly long way from Kent, a good I can't remember now actually, 5 hours, because I drove to Hampshire first, and then from Hampshire to Devon. During storm conditions, do not pass that sign. You've got a little pigeon there up there. Woo. Managed to get a last train in for you. I'm glad you've enjoyed the trains as much as I did. And sorry, this is a massively, I think I'm just turning around, making myself dizzy. Going across to the, and there you are, the wildfowl, which hopefully will whet your appetite for my tour, which will be in at certain point of some more black swan footage. Sun is literally shrinking, twinkling in, and there we are. There we have it. See? I'm like one of these chimera cats now, although it seems to be, I'm getting a little white stripe. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming along. We'll have another trip to Devon, no doubt. Next weekend it is Maidstone River Festival, so I thought I would go down there again and see what we can see. Hopefully the weather will be nice. We'll see some lovely boats. We'll have a walk by the river. We can talk about whatever comes into our heads. Sometimes cheese. I was thinking about today about sometimes there was completely random conversation with you guys in the chat talking about cheese. So take care everybody. Hopefully, so don't forget that's going to be next Saturday. It's not my usual Sunday slot. What I'm hoping to do is take a video of the raft race, and then I shall stream it and do the river, walk along, see the boats, etc. So take care everybody. Have wonderful weeks. Love to all. Bye. Bye.